What happens when two bass road warriors spend quality time talking music and life with one of their peers? Bassist, educator, author David C. Gross and bassist and head honcho of KnowYourBassPlayer.com, Tom Semioli, trade dates with the legends of rock, jazz, funk, blues, folk, country, and more. Notes from an artist, revealing conversations with the legends who've created the soundtrack of our lives. What happens? You're about to find out. It's another episode of Notes from an Artist.
Isn't this amazing? Benny's in Hawaii. Wow. Dave's in London. I'm in Connecticut. You guys are in New York. When you think about it, if it wasn't for Zoom and for COVID, really, who knew we'd be able to do something as wonderful as this?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things we'll discuss, Larry, last time we spoke to you was when you did that solo show at the Vanguard. Remember, you did that solo show. So we definitely have to talk about that as at another platform. Now that touring has become cost prohibitive for a lot of artists. The venues aren't there. The travel expenses have gone up, and insurance, liability insurance, and things like that. How viable internet concerts are. The one you did at the Vanguard was beautifully shot. The sound was excellent. I'm just on a laptop here. I'm not, I don't have an exotic computer, and just with headphones on, and the sound and the resonance, it was extraordinary. And that was not even with Ethernet, David. I was just on Wi-Fi, just regular New York City Wi-Fi.
Yeah. They were one of the few clubs, in my opinion, that really did it correctly. People kind of continued to do it kind of 19 or 2000 style. They took it up a notch. But I got to say, for me, in the last year and a half, touring is back more than ever. And I love it and I hate it. It's hard, but I definitely missed it. And I'm very happy not to be playing in front of a camera.
Well, now that we're on the topic, how was that for you? Obviously you didn't have an audience to feed back off of, right? Benny, David, you were always playing in front of human beings. What was that like to be, especially in the Vanguard, which is such a small, intimate club, right? And you're used to having people all around you, to be in that barren space.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not fun, really. You have to draw out the inspiration in other ways, especially if you're doing it solo. You don't even have any other band members to egg you on. So that was definitely a challenge. But we were so happy to play that we would take anything at that point. Happy to do it, But there's something about, obviously we noticed it while we were not doing it, but playing in front of people, even though I rarely, while playing, think about the audience. Actually, there's obviously this energy coming back and forth that is extremely nurturing and satisfying and creatively boosts your thing. So there's no alternative to that, really. We need that, especially for creative music that's different each night.
Right. Dave Swift, how was the club scene? Has it bounced back in London? Are tourists coming back to the UK? And
yeah, I think so. And the last tour I did was my usual winter tour with Jools Holland, which runs from October to Christmas. And we are still under some restrictions in the band. Previously to that, we used to have to test every day and send our results in. This tour, we didn't have to wear masks, but we couldn't have any guests backstage.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't bring our family or friends backstage, so they could come to the gigs, and the audiences were there. Maybe not as the venues weren't as full as they used to be.
Sure.
I think people are still reticent because the venues we do with Jools are very, very large.
Right.
And you can sort of see that people are a bit reticent about coming back. But, they're still pretty full. But yeah, we couldn't bring any guests backstage at all. So we could have family at the gig, and then we had to leave the venue to meet them afterwards, which it kind of changes the whole dynamic of the tour. So the gig goes ahead, but it's not quite as it used to be from that point of view. But yeah, audiences are definitely coming back. But like I said, on those big venues, like when we do the Royal Albert Hall, you can sort of see there are kind of like gaps where pre-COVID you wouldn't have seen that.
Of course, there's the whole economics of it. UK is going through quite a hardship like we are in the United States. Benny, Carlos is going to be on the road this summer, yes?
That's right.
And is it going to be anything special? Is he celebrating the anniversary of a record, or is it just going to be the usual?
No, just more music. He just likes to play and have any kind of actual reason just to have fun and play.
Yeah. All right.
How the shows
on the backstage scene, though, one thing we like about the COVID thing is that I get to tell people, sorry, no backstage passes. Sorry, it's just automatic. It's great. So that part is awesome.
All right, good.
That's because the more people you have backstage before the gig, there's you're trying to get in tune, and it's very difficult to tell people to leave. And
it filters out the people who actually want to go to the show or want their free tickets just so they can get backstage. Because there's the people that go like, well, yeah, sure, I can get you in, but you can't come backstage after the show. Some go like, oh, well, okay, never mind.
Yeah, well, I've noticed now in our band room at the end of the night, there's more food and drink left for the band.
That's good.
There's more.
All right. Anyway, welcome aboard, Ron Carter. Good to see you.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, Benny and Dave Swift were just bragging about the fact that one of
Barry, how are you?
Great to see you, Ron.
Haven't seen you in a while.
That COVID at least has put the brakes on all the people who come backstage to backslap and eat free food. So, okay. But all of you gentlemen have very busy schedules. I know that. So thanks for taking the time to talk on Cygnus Radio. Our listener will be very grateful, right, David Seagrove?
I think so. It's good to see all of you again.
One of the topics I wanted to bring up was the state of the bass in popular music. Now, in jazz and classical, obviously the instrument is alive and well. And it's thriving, of course, with new gear, digital recording, Zoom lessons, YouTube tutorials, good and bad, and streaming. But in popular music, the instrument has really kind of vanished since the 21st century. And we have to understand pop music is the portal by which most people are introduced to music. And myself, as an example, I grew up in the 1970s, and there was such a platform as FM radio. And I would hear such artists as Roberta Flack, Janice Ian, Paul Simon, Gil Scott-Heron. And I would go to the record store and I would pick up the record and I'd see the name Ron Carter. And then I would say, well, who's this guy Ron Carter? So I'd ask the record store clerk, and he or she would bring me to the jazz department and I'd get one of these. Remember that record, Ron?
Oh, yeah.
But right now, I don't see pop music. I don't hear pop music. I don't hear bass on new records by Rihanna or Dua Lipa or Jay-Z or Kanye or Beyonce. It's almost like it's either program bass with no harmonic or rhythmic movement. And, we have plenty of great young bass players out there. Joe Dart, Esperanza Spalding, Tal Winkenfeld. But is our instrument compromised now that it's no longer the foundation of pop music? What do you think? And how do we get it back? Thought?
I think bass lines are still going to be a foundation because they help propel music. Currently there are maybe less pop tunes that have discernible bass lines, but that's a fashion. And there's a lot of young bands out there that are using bass, and there's some really great bass players out there that are just killing it. And they're doing pop songs. They're doing pop-ish songs. There's a lot of hybridization going on, and they're out there touring. Joyce Manor, those people from Jersey, I forgot their names. All these bands that my son listens to, and they got bass lines, and they're really there's some really good ones out there. So I don't think it's gone away or been compromised. Maybe a little, but the bass line still is the instrument. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. I'm taking up photography myself. So.
Good morning, Gary Karr.
Good morning.
Look at him.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Gary is always the best dressed, David.
I was out last night to an interesting opera called
Tell us about it.
The Birds. And it's it has a lot to do with what's going on in the world now. It's people who are discontented, and then they find that, well, perhaps if they become a bird, they can fly away and form their own civilization in the sky, away from all the horrible things that are going on in Earth. Very interesting. And actually, it was written by a Greek scholar from Aristophanes many, many years ago. It was all about Athenian life, but it's very similar to what we face today. So it was really good.
And did Respighi write a piece called The Birds too, based on that?
Yes.
Yeah, Respighi, right?
Yes, it was Respighi.
Yeah. I think
yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Well, not to be confused with Alfred Hitchcock.
Not to be confused with Alfred. Well, Benny, you just did a musical review, The Living, right? It's the lonely group of people we are all a part of. And that was a benefit for McKinley High School of Performing Arts.
Oh, that was just here, local, for my high school. Their performing arts program. I just wanted to do a benefit because they need help, like every other performing arts program in America. So, but
still, I mean, when you think about it, I guess David and I, we all grew up on Jamie Abersol and Rufus Reed and Carol Kay, and now there's so much more available for kids in terms of music education. So, what impressed you about these young players?
Their facility, their fearlessness, their willingness to listen to anything. That's their willingness to play whatever instrument they need to. There are a lot more multi-instrumentalists these days. It's really great.
I envy the jazz world for that, because I'm really disappointed although, I mean, amazing things have happened with the bass in the classical world, but they don't listen. They don't listen to anything.
Well, Gary, when we last spoke, you really told us that you insist that classical players listen to jazz players and vice versa.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
In fact, sure, it's true. If yes, and I'm really a relic of the past, I think, because I don't think I could get a teaching job now, because in order to teach the bass in any kind of musical institution, you have to know all genres.
Yeah.
And I wasn't brought up that way. I was totally focused on classical. Okay. And so even though I wanted to do jazz, they said, oh, no, you can't do that.
Did you ever dip your toes in the jazz water?
You won't believe it, but now that I'm retired and I'm finally fulfilling a lifelong dream, and I'm studying jazz piano.
Oh, okay.
And I have to tell you, I hate the piano. I really hate it. I mean, it just to sit down to practice is such a challenge for me because I hate the instrument. The bass gives you all wonderful feedback. You feel the vibrations. I mean, it's just such a wonderful instrument to play, and you play really mostly by feel. You don't use your ears that way. There's such a struggling in playing the instrument, and the piano is the coldest, most unforgiving instrument, and it's all mechanical. That's what I hate about it. It's just a mechanical machine. I hate everything mechanical. No. Of cars.
Well, speaking about education, Ron, you just came out with a fascinating book, or it's about to be released, called Bass Drops.
Yeah, one of the things that makes jazz players more individual than any other sport, so to speak, is their ability or willingness to play something other than four quarter notes in the same measure. Right now, since I'm not working, I used to make my living just doing that. So I'm playing half notes now and eating different meals, but it's okay. But I think I've gotten a lot of curiosity from people who were studying upright bass back in the day. How and when and where do you do these things? And how portable are they in that my bass is smaller, my bass is bigger. We don't know many tunes. The level of the band is so different inside the band. Drops do what they do. They affect the rhythm. They affect the placement of the beat. They affect where the harmony really is. Your nice road marks that let the guy know, well, I think this is the top of the tune, bam. And sometimes the bam's in the wrong place. Well, you don't know the tune or he's lost. But they do all these things. And this book, I've found 30 different examples of my drops. And with each drop that's notated physically, there's a QR code that you go to your camera, you go to this QR code, it just takes you to YouTube where this particularly Iggity Boom is right there. So you hear it and read it at the same time. So you can see where I'm using it. You can see where in the beat it is. Maybe it's the downbeat, maybe it's on and of 3, or right now and of 15, given who's writing the piece. And it could get pretty far out. But it's coming out over the next week and a half. And I've already gotten, I like to say, a lot of comments on it. Well, 2. You're one of them. and the copyist is the second one. But it's getting a lot of interest because it shows visually what a drop is, where to play it, where in the bar is most effective, and how the tempo affects how it sounds wherever you play it. So I'm kind of excited about it, and hopefully the rappers will stop stealing my shit and use one of these new ones.
Well, you know what I found most interesting? You didn't waste any time, because even in the very first example, and I'm one of those people, when a new piece of equipment comes out, I take the manual, put it aside, and I get to work. So with your book, I'm reading through them because I got it last night and I wanted to have a little bit more knowledge and say, oh, Ron's got a new book out. So I started in. I didn't even read the preamble and the introduction. So I'm going there, and the very first one, it's starts on the D flat, and then it goes, oh, that's all major thirds, da 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 da, and it's a whole tone scale. And then I start reading out, yeah, he said that already. but it's really great stuff, and the fact that an audience now with the great technology we have can go click, and then that you can go right there and hear the example. How fantastic is that?
That's quite amazing. And one of those new kids you speak of, who was one of the pretty older guys before they get my age group. They're the ones who have the most curiosity about it, because they're playing in groups now who want that bass line that doesn't just sound like playing on a brick. They want to hear some notes sometimes. They want to know what kind of brick is that, you know?
Exactly.
Where's the root? And the bass has always been that kind of character to be able to lay all those things down depending on where you play the drop figure.
And then when you think about it, with your previous book, Chartography,
yeah.
You're right about the specialization, because here you're taking one song over 5 years, watching how your evolution as a bassist, as well as the tune's evolution because of who you're playing with at that time. It's a fascinating way to look at it. And in some ways, it's similar to when we had Michael Manring on. He was talking about alternate tunings on the bass. And I went, wow, hey, Michael, let's write a book on alternate tunings of the bass. And so we've got that one of them out. And it's just, there's really a lot of room to really basically go granular.
I think George Farmer, who you may know, was a wonderful player in New York, was really active in the Broadway show scene as a bassist and always in demand. He did a show maybe 6 months ago on upright bass lines in the current pop music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, because his name is George Farmer, Farmer, and he has some wonderful examples of upright being used in a pop tune, a famous pop tune, a hot number, so to speak.
Okay.
And it's just interesting that you're right. Right now, it's all about playing a soft mellow on the pillow for the bass beat.
Maybe I'm an old guy, but I miss hearing.
No, you are an old guy.
I am an old guy. I miss hearing Ron Carter or Jerry Jamot or Chuck Rainey dance around the beat and dance around the harmony. That's what made records to me. And same with Benny Rietveld's predecessor, this guy David Brown. Another guy who got me into bass, right? Those deep grooves that David Brown did. And so many times, Ron, when I listen to contemporary music, it sounds like a demo, man. Where's the bass?
Gorillas.
Where's the chord?
Where's the chord? Yeah.
You mentioned Gorillas.
It's a good band out of
yes.
UK. There's bands out there. The kids are starting to realize that the music that they like, my kids' age, is all the stuff with real people playing on it. I mean, they're all. If I can go by my son and his friend groups, they're all listening to all the 70s and 80s music.
Really? How old is your son?
He's 19. They're all listening to all these actual players that created grooves. You know, and
I don't know those records. Can you send me some names? I have no idea. No, really,
yeah, I mean,
no idea.
There are some. It's not like
the bass players I see are up in the 20s and 30s who want to learn how to play the bass.
Yeah. Well, there's a great band out of Dallas.
I tie their shoelaces. You know, I want to find.
No. Like there's a band called Funky Knuckles out of Dallas. Bass player, killing band. These guys, they used to back up Erykah Badu, and that bass player is like, he's got actual tone too, which is and he can do some technical stuff, but he concentrates on feel first. It's like there are guys out there that are doing it. Like Ghost Note is another great band.
Wolfpack with Joe Dart. Joe Dart is arguably probably the most popular young bass player on the scene now. But again,
Wolfpack,
and
they're a different kind of band. You know, their music is, but no, check out Funky Knuckles, man. Those guys.
Can you give me a list of more than one band so I can hear these guys?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You know what we'll do, Tom? At the end of this, we'll make a list.
We'll make a list.
Put it on Tidal with a selection of songs. With that being said, Dave, I just got from Blue Note something called Transmissions from Total Refreshment Center. Are you familiar with the Total Refreshment Center out of London?
No.
It's a bunch of interesting young cats who are doing some very, very interesting music.
It's like a great bar.
Yes.
Well, apparently, not only is it a bar, it's a recording studio, and they also perform live music. And this is a sampling of 7 different artists. Let's see. One of them is Kieran Booth. Does that name ring a bell? Who else? Byron somebody. But it's called Transmissions from the Total Refreshment Center. And
my invitation must have got lost in the post.
It must have.
I think so. Or either that, or you were satiated and didn't need any new refreshments.
Dave Swift, you play with many, many young artists on Jools, later with Jools Holland. I've seen many programs. You're playing with artists. What about your approach? Do you embellish the bass parts on some of these, I don't want to say lame, but pretty remedial bass parts? Or do you do? Are you a good boy and you stick to the record?
Do you know the weirdest thing has happened in recent times? Because on Jools' TV show, being the house bassist, I would normally switch between uprights and bass. Over time, Jools, he doesn't really want me to play electric bass anymore. He wants to play upright on everything. Wow. Which, when I was a session player, that was counterintuitive to me. You play what's either already on the record. Right. You get close to it. And I always transcribe everything. Every artist that comes on the show, I transcribe the lines. We don't get given charts. You do your own homework. But recently, all the pop artists we've had on there, I've been turning up to rehearsals with my bass guitar and my upright. And Jools is basically saying, do everything on upright. And that's partly to do with his own preference. Okay. He just loves the upright way more than he likes bass guitar. So some of his recent TV shows, we're playing with George Ezra and Paul Weller, Emily Sandé, Ed Sheeran, and all the bass lines are all played on electric bass, which if you're playing electric bass, those parts are fairly easy. And I've been able to play them on upright. They've been killing me. Because these are out and out pop, funk, house things. Yeah. And I said to Jools, I said, if that's what you want. I think what it is, he doesn't want us to be a completely generic house band.
Right, I understand.
Because technically we're still the Jools Holland Orchestra. So he wants us to have some identity. And for him, a key part of the band's identity is me playing upright bass.
Yeah, interesting.
So
interesting.
I explained to him, I'm just not going to be able to play the lines as I would have done on bass guitar. I'm having to simplify them because just the physicality of it. So that's been a massive change for me in my own career recently. The last tour we did, I would normally alternate between electric and upright, and he just wants upright and everything. So I've had to build up a lot more stamina, because again, it's one thing just playing walking lines on upright, but when you're playing Motown, R&B and funk things on upright, it's tough. But the good thing is that the artists that we're working with, and they are very modern pop artists, they're fine with it.
Yeah, I would think they were. Getting back to that with Ron, I remember, like I said, talking about listening to FM radio, and a lot of the lines you were playing on the upright, Ron, sounded to me almost like electric lines. Were you influenced by what was happening with the Jerry Jamotts and the Jamesons and the Duck Duns and all that?
No, I talked to Jerry Jamott last night, by the way.
Oh, okay.
He's somewhere on the West Coast right now, and he's working on a biography, so I'll let you know when it comes out. He's in the middle
great.
I think Chuck Randy did the forward for him within the past week or so. So they're both doing well. Chuck we all our age group have our physical issues, but they're doing well, and Jerry and I alone talk about the old days and how I wish things used to be that way most of the time. And he's really doing well. So I'll let you know when the book is available. He would love to plug in it, so I'm sure it'll be a really well-written book. I kind of got off the topic, so I want to share Jerry's.
But it was kind of like, I thought your work and with those soul records that you did with Roberta had kind of an R&B Motown type vibe to them. And I thought, wow, that must be really tough to play on an upright. I had thought it was an electric when I was listening.
No, I just played the concept that I was hearing. She had a general line for her.
Okay.
Her bass player and her trio that came to New York to make the recording that didn't work out for the hit producer. Mm-hmm. She was an upright player. So I was just playing her concept of a bass line on the upright. So I had no thought to what other genre can this bass line be used at. Okay. I just hoped that what I played, she would appreciate it. At the copy, they'd bust their chops trying to make the same thing I did too.
And a lot of that stuff was sampled.
Yes. Those guys, I keep telling those guys, if you call me, I'll give you the real thing, man. Come on. I'll change keys for you. I'll play around with it now and then so you feel comfortable. The real basic stuff.
Larry, you started off on the electric and you studied with Ron, yes?
I did.
Ron, was Larry a good student?
Is he still here? He's a wonderful student, and I miss him. It's time for him to come by for a $5,000 checkup, by the way.
I need my checkup, right? Absolutely. I think about the things that we discussed all the time while playing and not playing. No, one of the great experiences of my life in the focus of the information and the directness of it and the clarity of it. And you meet a lot of people who teach but don't love to teach. And Ron really seems to love to teach, which brings a whole other element of excitement to the lesson. And I did start on electric, but I gave it up pretty quick because my focus changed. And like kind of what we're talking about, the transfer of information to me has been vital to my practicing of taking Motown or talking about Chuck Rainey and Jerry Jamot. That information and bringing it to the upright to me is always a technical challenge that's great for practice, for clarity, for lengths of notes, for playing it in different areas of the bass. So I use that all the time, and I think somehow it affects the music that we end up playing too.
Yeah.
I mean, like yourself, Larry, I started off on bass guitar and I started to play upright shortly afterwards. But the interesting thing is because I didn't have a teacher, so I was self-taught on both instruments. So when I took up upright, I was trying to use bass guitar fingerings. Now, Gary, I know that you're a big fan, aren't you?
I always like to have students who started with electric bass because then I say, oh, you've got the good fingering patterns.
Yeah, exactly. But then, of course, what happened is that somebody gave me the Samandel book and put it in front of me, and I'm kind of thinking, oh no, I'm doing this all wrong. So I then
I know. I hate
Samandel. I know how you feel about Samandel.
I think bass fingerings are fabulous, and they really work very well on upright. And if you get a great facility on electric doing all over the instrument, you should be able to do that on an upright bass as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like what Francois Rabat, it's a finger or fret kind of a situation.
Finger or fret.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say about the bass in today's music that hasn't really been talked about is that the lack of harmony in most pop, right?
That's it.
If you go back to, because that you're saying that Ron played on, and there's always a great harmony to these tunes, right, coming out of that era of songbook.
Right, it's that chartography approach. And these kids today, Ron, they keep going to the grocery store and buying roots. There's a lot more than...
Not in my neighborhood, man.
But you're absolutely right, Larry. That's one of the things, one of my favorite players is a guy by the name of Fernando Saunders, who you probably know.
Oh, yeah.
Did many years with Lou Reed, and of course Marianne Faithfull, more of a rock player with John McLaughlin, the One Truth Band, and things like that. And him and another guy by the name of Gordon Sumner, which I think we call him Sting, right? If you listen to them, they could take 3 chords and make them sound like 300 chords, or they can make them sound like 3 chords. And this instrument has so much power. Like Ron Carter said about his work with Miles. Miles was the band leader, but I led the band. Well, you can do that with a bass.
That's right.
And that's one of the things I feel is really missing from contemporary music. Yeah, there's a lot of hot players out there, and you really have to go out and find bass-centric music to hear good bass playing. But what happened when I turned on the radio and I heard Smooth by Santana? I was like, wow, that's a great bass groove. Who is that guy? Who was that guy, Benny? Do you remember?
No, yes, I do. You're talking about the really ultra pop, really. Yeah, we're definitely in a 1, 6, 2, 4, 5 bass forever. Yeah.
Do you think it's going to take a bass superstar, or can we even have them now like we had with, let's say, a Stanley or a Jocko back in the 70s? Or was that just different time? I don't know.
Well, I think the guys who are making the music right now are so focused on imitating the bass sound, what they call the bass feeling.
Yeah.
There's not room right now for someone who doesn't agree with that view of a bass sounds like that.
Yeah.
Because the chords, the songs are not so harmonically focused.
Right.
Part of the song. Most of them don't have changes. They have the sound of a bass, a piano bass, or a synthesizer bass.
Yeah.
So the need for that sound of the bass to fill that hole that the others, they're not writing songs like that.
Yeah.
And producers are guys who rather sample than look around for another kind of sound other than what they can fake with this other stuff that they have. Until that changes, until those guys at the top asking permission to steal or actually making a pillow with a soft mallet replace the bass player, it'd be difficult to get a bass player sound in that current music.
It's kind of funny. My wife yesterday gave me a link to a YouTube video where he must have been 17 or 18, is like doing all this amazing technical stuff on the bass. And she's going, isn't that great? I have a business that brings music programs into the New York City schools. So I'm really into education. I really believe it's important. And we do everything from string programs to chorus and so I'm watching this kid and I just go to Nancy and I go, I'd like to see him play a groove, which is, a groove.
Usually, right.
What's that?
Dead silence, David. See that? Nobody.
Well, do you know what I've noticed as well? Because, and I've noticed in this because I was a brass player before I was a bass player, so I play tuba and trombone, and I've noticed there's a lot of great younger tuba players at the moment, and the virtuosity of these guys, and I'm talking about playing jazz and pop and kind of funk stuff, and they're the bass player in the band. Some of these kind of groups they have, there isn't an electric bass or a double bass player. The bass player is the tube, and some of these guys are playing some amazing stuff. It's really pushed that instrument to the forefront. I mean, I'm excited about it because I play that instrument. You know, so I'm kind of watching these players carefully, but it's becoming very kind of hip with dance music. There's a British tuba player called Theon Cross.
Okay.
And he's doing that stuff. It's sort of house dance tracks, and he's doing all the bass work on tuba and playing melodies as well, but primarily he's doing the bass thing. So who knows? Maybe there used to be a bass guitar revolution. Maybe there's going to be a tuba in the bass world. I just hope I live long enough to be part of it.
I remember I used to listen to Dirty Dozen Brass Band a lot. Man, that tuba player, he was doing all those fun things. They're great. Bass event in an instrument anyway, it's a function, right? So I guess anything down there that helps drive stuff, good by me.
It's what you put on top, if you put anything on top.
Right. Well, just switching the subject a little bit, bass players, we like catchers on a baseball team, right? When something goes wrong, we have to be the first responders. And then, of course, when something goes right, we don't get any of the credit. That all comes down to being a band leader. Now, Benny, you've been Carlos's MD for going on 30 years. Ron, obviously, you lead your own bands. What is your approach as a band leader? What band leaders did you learn what to do and what not to do? Ron, Benny?
Well, as a bass player, band leader, I made sure the first tune had no smoke on it. It needn't be a ballad, but I was so concerned that after being off the set for an hour in the cold dressing room, that the first tune of the second set, Bogey right here. Each snap is one chorus. And most band leaders, they have no idea what it takes to do that, given one chorus is like this, you know. Every night with Miles's band, every night we do So What, it'll get faster. After set, I would tell Miles, so what? We had a good relationship. So what? So what? But I think one of the things I would hope that the newer band leaders who are starting to invest in a good bass player in terms of bringing him along with the band's growth, understand what it takes physically to play the bass on a really good night. And as we're doing the bass du jour, Larry will tell you, we run into some terrible things we'll have to contend with, given we can't bring our bass on the gigs anymore. From anywhere that's past 1 hour worth of drive out of New York, can't do that anymore, basically.
Yeah.
And band leaders who don't play bass, they're so unaware of the difficulty we're facing because to do the job we hired to do on an instrument that just cannot allow that. You know? So one of the things I try to do is give my students some things to look out for. You play on a bass that's not yours, and you're going from the airport long enough to go to the bathroom to the sound check. It helps them not feel so estranged from the bass that you left in New York or wherever you are. And they found some breathing room. That's a gig.
There's no bass in that song, Ron.
I don't play Fender, sorry. They can't believe it. They can call back tomorrow. But the other thing that's difficult to explain to a band leader who doesn't play bass is the length of the note on the ballad. An electric bass note, it can last a month and a half, depending on the instrument and its gear. But the pulse sometimes disappears because the length is so long. The beat's not so clearly defined, appears to be. And when the band leader looks around at the bass player and sees that he's not using the bow for that note that he expects to be that long, like an electric bass length note, you have to kind of be very gentle and explain to him that the instruments are so different because there's really no way to make the sound as you expect it on a Chuck Rainey bass line with a long quarter note like this. Our notes traditionally about this long. And in the space, that's the beat. Not this Shirley Horn bass player line that's it. Here's one. And that works for her because the bass player is playing electric bass, a really good player, by the way.
Yeah.
He made that tune work because his sound lasted for as long as she could say one. And he'd go, one. and when the bass player knows who's upright is not so long as that,
right?
Her seems she's in a hurry to get the next beat. But I think there's two things that I have to badly understand. Speaking of that, my solution for having been off for an hour between sets in an air-conditioned dressing room, heaven forbid, I went to a hardware store and bought some hand warmers. Come in small packs.
Okay.
You do like this?
Yeah.
And it lasts for like an hour. And me and Russell Long experimented. I bought two kinds. Russell, you try this kind, I'll try this kind. And clearly, our hands stayed warm for the hour we were off. So, as the band leader for a trio, I could call it any tune I could play at this tempo right now. Because my hands were not feeling like this. Wow. And he said, Mr. C, how'd you discover that? I said, well, our friend who lives in Colorado was saying how these hand warmers helped her do something with knitting needles. And she couldn't do it because her hands got so cold getting from point A to point B outside. The last thing I learned from a band leader is not to play two tunes in the same key.
Okay.
Because when you play a vamp or a figure, like some rock tunes are, key is not necessarily the focus of what you have to do because it's the same vamp. And I admire those guys with their ability and discipline to do that. As a band leader, I want to try different parts of the bass and different changes. They're not the same. I can't play it So What at 9:05 and second tune is at 9:50, 9:25. Another tune, So What, in the same zone. Another D minor sounding song. Because it limits my choices of playing the bass like I want to play it. And so I try to make the tunes not so same key-ish. It allows me to play different parts of the bass physically. It gives me more note choices because I'm on a different part of the bass where this finger on this string gives me these choices, but this note on this finger, there are more choices. D minor is a D minor, man. D minor and A minor, they're not the same sound. D minor, A minor kind of thing, you know? And I try to be conscious of that because I know horn players, they say, Maestro, we did this key already. So, oh, wow. Okay, well, let's do this tune in a different key, a little slower so I can breathe. Here's a long note for you guys. Coda.
Benny, you worked for Miles. What did you learn from him as a band leader that you translated to your work with Carlos as MD?
Pay attention to everything all the time. That's it. And also put a little lift in it. That was good advice. But yeah, just listening to everything all the time from the first note of the show to the last. And that was it. Otherwise, you just get that stare. It was good.
All right. So you stare at the other Santana members, I guess.
No, I don't. I just have a good time. I get to play all the great drummers and percussionists. Yeah, sure. So happy as a pig and,
Yeah.
And C minor.
Happy as a pig in C minor.
Or D minor.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that Ron and we've talked about, and of course with Dave Swift, is being prepared. And Ron McClure told me a story about when he subbed for Ron Carter back in the 60s. I studied with Ron McClure, and I think he said you used to pay him like maybe, $25-$50 to do the first set because you had a session. And Ron would tell me that he would step on the bandstand with the Miles band, without Miles there, and they wouldn't even call a tune. He would just have to start playing and things. And he just had to jump in the water and play with these guys. And then they would tell him, just lighten up, don't play so hard. And then on the other side of the spectrum, Dave, you transcribe everything. And when it comes to time to prepare for working with an artist,
But it depends, because that's primarily for a TV show.
Right, okay.
Like on a TV, the artists, often they want exactly what's on the record.
Okay.
And then ultimately, when I do the transcriptions, if they occasionally come up to me and say, listen, you can free this up, it doesn't have to be exactly as written, but I would rather start off with the full, accurate transcription of the song. If it's their new single, whatever, I want to show them that I can play what's on the record. I don't want to go there and just try and busk that. Whereas obviously if it's a jazz gig, often you don't know who you're going to be playing with or what tunes, but the TV stuff, it's a lot more specific. So then I really do my homework in those instances.
Right. Okay. Larry, what about preparing for a gig? Do you go back, if you're working with an artist you've never worked before, do you go back and listen to what the other bass players who came before you did? Or is it just something where you just come in and bring what you have to the table?
A bit of both. You want to know the repertoire for sure.
Yeah.
You don't want to be too surprised by that. At least the things that you can prepare for, you like to get together so you feel more comfortable when you show up, right?
Yeah.
I have to kind of think back because now these days I play with a lot of the same people a lot.
Right.
So, but when I was a kid and having to play with people coming through town, I noticed, so I'll just play along with their records, learn the material and get a sense of what it feels like to play with them. And I was surprised at how well that worked, to how close to reality it actually is to play with records. It's one of those things that with students, I'm surprised that they don't still do that because it's not, they're not reacting to you, of course, but you're getting a pretty close feel for what it is like to play with these people who are either no longer around or.
Yeah. And of course, now we have the advantage of YouTube, which can be a blessing and a curse. We can watch the masters, as Ron mentioned in our chartography conversations. You need to know how the masters did that. It's not just enough to watch them, but it's a great point of reference for those of us who couldn't have seen Paul Chambers to be able to watch video of that, to see Jimmy Garrison and people like that have this tremendous resource to do that. That's a big part of education, I think, is to know the history of the instrument in that sense.
If I can jump in here just for a moment. Actually, I'm sitting down. It's too early to jump around in New York. It's like I missed 11. Yeah, come on, guys. One of the reasons I'm so proud of how chartography turned out is that what I wanted to be a landmark way to transcribe bass. I'm like Larry. We have our lines transcribed for classes, a chorus of this song, a chorus of that song. But that doesn't really give the bass player a sense of important factors. Is this chorus line that you transcribed the first chorus of the song? Is it the third chorus of the song? Is it an edited song? How fast is the song? How are your hands feeling that day? How's the band responding to all these factors are affected by that bass line. What the chartography does, Autumn Leaves, in 5 performances with the Miles Band. And we knew that that would be the first tune every night. As long as we were all breathing at the same time, it would be the first opening tune. Airport, Autumn Leaves. What do you call those guys? TSA guys, Autumn Leaves. What I did was take 5 performances of this Autumn Leaves, and with the YouTube QR code, you can see how my line evolved over a 5-year period of time. With the same band, the same personnel. Yeah. So you can see in my line, it's like 5 choruses before the tune jumped off. You can see how the band responded to my options of the bass line. You can see how the band heard a figure I played in August. They knew it was coming because I had done it 6 months before at a different gig, different locale. And it's this kind of continuity of really seeing a bass line develop and evolve, how the band responds to that information. To the single line transcription, it just shows a transcription skill. show. It shows an isolated one chorus of somebody who you hope did better for the second chorus that's not transcribed. This is a hot moment, and this line is what they use to use an example. And so far, people who have really bought this book and taken a look at it are amazed at the width and breadth of a bass player's ability to take a phrase or a rhythm and over a period of 5 different performances, develop it into a real Picasso kind of piece. Sounds like it's all new. Its usage is new. Its location may be new. The bass may be new. The drum set may be terrible. The line is still carrying the weight of responsibility, making everybody sound great because how he's evolved an idea that they've heard 2 performances ago. And they wonder, where's it going over here? And those who ask my transcriptions, I give them that book because it shows a memory. I develop a memory. And this memory is in April, given all my stuff between April and the next Miles Davis gig, I learned all these things. And this gig, the second gig in the sequence of 5, shows not only that I worked when Miles was off, because I still got some kind of chops left, but I remember an idea that took place here. It's now over here in August in Europe. And in September and the Plug Nickel is here. And to see this evolve and be able to hear it with this QR code that's attached to this process. Right. It's really quite amazing. And I asked myself, did we really do that? And did I make Herbie really not play a chord until I played this figure? And did I not let Miles come in until I wanted to I evolved my line to the very last I could do? And then he said, oh, okay, here we go. The melody. That kind of bass evolving.
Yeah.
It's important to have a bass player see that in front of him or her. This line they transcribed on the record was a good line. I mean, you should have heard it 2 months ago. Or wait till we get to fall. By this time, it's the fourth time of the autumn leaves. And man, it sounds like a new bread. Sounds great. So I encourage you guys to take a look at it if you don't know that process and just see how I am so enthusiastic about a genuine transcription of what I try to do playing the bass.
Yeah. That gets behind the scenes. Well, let's plug what everyone is doing. Now, Ron, you were just finding the right notes. That must have been nice to be the center of attention. I'm sure you guys have all seen that film. If you haven't, I highly recommend Finding the Right Notes. Ron, you've got some gigs coming up at the Blue Note, right? With the Foresight Quartet and the Golden Striker Trio. Yes,
my second return to the scene, so to speak, in New York after my series of operations. I was up this morning at 5 a.m. New York time and with my Pilates and breathing exercise person, and I'm really feeling great.
Good.
Changed strings yesterday, and the bass sounded like I owned it. So wow.
You change bass strings? You can actually do that. I
hire somebody. It's easier playing the bass, man. I'm telling you.
Totally.
He had an electric tune, a drill, he had a hand tuner, man. He had a pair of pliers, he had a screwdriver, and then had a pillow. Play the bass down. And I said, well, man, what's it cost, all that kind of shit you got?
All right. And everyone, don't forget.
Don't drop the sound post.
Don't drop the notes. But don't forget, we all have to vote for Ron. You're on the Kennedy Center's honor. If you go on all right, so all vote Ron Carter on Kennedy Center's, right? Go to kennedyscenter.org, get Ron in the Kennedy Center. So you got a busy. Now, Gary, you're going to be, I guess, taking destroying piano.
Yeah. I'm close to destroying my piano.
Yes. Well, it worked for Jerry Lee Lewis. So,
And Keith Emerson.
Yes. Benny, you're going to be on tour with Carlos this summer? No?
I'm going to be making beats for my next album.
Is that one E or 2 E's?
Yeah. I'll just be eating beats.
They'll be eating beats. Larry, the Gleaners was your last record. What plans do you have coming up this summer?
I'm touring more than ever, actually. So I'm just moving around a lot, playing with a few different bands. And
when you head toward New York?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't play in New York much these days. I'll be there in May at the Vanguard. But
good.
So yeah, just a lot of airplanes.
All right. So we go to Larry.
I'm still trying to bring the bass on the road. I'm fighting it at every turn. So I'll do it as long as I can. And then,
man.
You can actually bring it upright on a plane.
Well, I got the travel bass so that comes off, so it's less intimidating at the airport.
How does that affect intonation? I would imagine.
You got to put the neck back on.
You have to put the neck back.
That helps.
And David Swift, more shows with Jools coming up? And when do you film the next season?
Well, I'm not sure when the next TV show starts, but we last year we did an album, a collaborative album with Rod Stewart.
Oh, okay.
It's Sir Rod Stewart.
Sir Rod, of course.
Yeah, so we recorded. So it's the Jools Holland band with Rod Stewart singing with us, and so that album is coming out quite soon.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So we're not really sure what's going to happen with that because we've still got our own tours with Jools planned. Rod Stewart has got his own tours with his own band, so I'm not sure how this collaborative album is going to work.
Okay.
But I guess we'll wait and see. So that's kind of quite exciting. That'll be the big thing this year.
Okay.
Bring the tuba.
Bring the tuba. Well, Larry and David, you both accompany your wives. Rebecca Martin is a jazz singer, and Dave Swift, your wife Lucy, is a jazz singer. So, Larry, how does that work? I mean, do you get to play whatever you want? Does she hand you charts? No solos? How does that work?
Do the dishes.
Do the dishes.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to play with your partner, and it's just a continuation of your life stage. So. We actually did it over Christmas, and we brought our son. We were like 3 weeks in Europe, and it was like a family tour. It was great. So I value that so much.
So your wife gives you rhythmic and harmonic freedom on the bandstand.
Yeah, in some ways more than other bands for sure. So no complaints.
She's a good band leader. Okay.
Yeah. It's shared. It's all shared.
If you work with your wife, she's the boss at home and the boss on the bandstand. Well, there's no respite.
Well, right. Exactly. What were we saying, Benny?
I used to bring my son on the gig. He plays drums.
Okay.
And it was great because I didn't have to pay him. I said, sorry.
Used to the business, I guess, Benny, huh?
It's like paying your rent. So,
well, our son's 5, and he's been having piano lessons. So
I noticed that. Yeah,
and we could do with that. We could do with the pianist in the family. If Lucy's singing on the bass, we need a piano player. But he is only 5, so
okay, 2 more years, he'll be fine. Yeah.
No, hire Gary. He's looking for a gig. Gary Karr needs a gig.
I'm available. Listen, I have to go. I mean, like Ron, I have my trainer coming in.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up. Well, gentlemen, thanks for participating. We'll get this on the radio. Ron, congratulations on the new book. We got to get you in the Kennedy Center.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Larry, we'll catch you at the Vanguard. Dave, I'll see you on television.
I can't apologize enough.
I can't imagine. All right, Benny, take it easy. All right, great talking to you guys. We'll send you all the files and all the other stuff when it goes up.
Send me the name of those bands I don't know about.
Yes.
I'm going to put a list together. Absolutely.
Right. Bands we don't know about. We're still young at heart, gentlemen. Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
See ya.